Hi, everyone. Al DeMarco here, and welcome to the college football edition of the Weekend Review. Listen, as a gambler, as a handicapper, I believe that before you start handicapping next week's games, you've got to take a look in that rearview mirror as to what happened the past weekend. And that's what this show is all about. We're going to take a quick tour around Saturday's college football action, and let's start in the SEC because that's where I made money this weekend and made you some money as well. My 15-dime best bet was on LSU, and of course, one of the free plays of which I hit 3 out of 4, I gave you a winner on Alabama. You know these two are going to meet in Baton Rouge 2 Saturdays from now as they both have a bye next week. So let's start talking about these two games this past weekend. Of course, Alabama got the job done against Texas A&M. Yet another defensive touchdown for the Crimson Tide. 9 defensive scores for them so far this season. But if you look at the box score, what did they do best? They kept the Aggies' offense off the field. 36 minutes time of possession for Alabama in that victory and the cover. And they ran for 287 yards. Meanwhile, LSU, in revenge, playing at home against Mississippi, rolls 38-21, keyed by the return of Leonard Fournette. Seeing his first game action since hurting his ankle back on September 24th, did you see the replays, the speed, the acceleration when they handed him the ball? Amazing. 16 carries, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now remember, Fournette last year, when the Tigers lost in Tuscaloosa, 19 carries, 31 yards. Another key player to keep in mind, Chad Kelly, the Mississippi quarterback. Well, the Tigers kept him in check. Tigers entered that game on Saturday, giving up just 14 points a game. Number 4 ranked statistical defense in the country. Chad Kelly, 19 for 32 under constant pressure, only 209 yards, a lot of them in garbage time, 2 interceptions, and sacked 2 times. But he was hit repeatedly, constantly being flushed out of the pocket. But what quarterback gave Alabama the most trouble this year? It was Chad Kelly, you may recall. Chad Kelly in a 48-43 home loss to the Tide earlier this season threw for 421 yards and 3 touchdowns. So personally, I can't wait for this game a couple of weeks from now because I think LSU can give them all they can handle because LSU has done something with their interim coach, Ed Orgeron, which they never did under Les Miles, as I pointed out if you happen to buy my best bet yesterday. They find the end zone, and they find the end zone frequently. In 3 games since Miles has been gone, they have scored 45, 42, and 38 points in blowout wins against Mizzou, Southern Miss, and Ole Miss. Now, of course, Alabama is a step up in class, but this is going to be one hell of a game. Now, Auburn, how about the Tigers? There is a guy, Tigers head coach, Gus Malzahn, who was definitely on the hot seat early in the season. Well, he's off that hot seat now because 4th straight win for the Tigers, a 56-3 thrashing of number 17 Arkansas. I don't think the Razorbacks deserve that number 17 ranking going into this game in the Plains. But listen, the Tigers got the job done. They avenged last year's 4 overtime loss by running for 543 yards, even though their number 1 running back was sidelined with an ankle injury. Razorbacks only 215 total yards in that game a week after they beat Ole Miss 34-30. Tigers now 6-1 against the spread on the season. Their only losses straight up against Clemson and Texas A&M. I still don't believe Auburn is the real deal, however, but we'll see. They visit Ole Miss on Saturday, and listen, they should dominate Ole Miss defensively because Ole Miss has no defense, and they didn't have a defense even before they played LSU, okay? And you saw they couldn't stop LSU and Fournette, and they shouldn't be able to stop Auburn's option attack either. Utah was a team I seriously considered using yesterday, and I should have too, but hey, I can't complain. 3 out of 4 free pick winners and a best bet winner on LSU. You can't be greedy, although greed is certainly good in gambling. That's the bottom line. But Utah, 6.5-point underdog, winning outright 52-45 at UCLA. You know the home team is now 1-4 straight up and 0-5 against the spread the last 5 meetings in that Pac-12 series. Utes now 7-1 so far. How the hell did they lose to California in a defensive struggle? How do you use the word defense and California in the same sentence? You saw that game on Friday night, right? Against Oregon? Sure, you, like me, stayed up until 2:45 in the morning Eastern watching that damn game to win money on the Golden Bears. Anyway, the Bruins have now lost 4 of their last 5. They're 4-10 against the spread in their last 14 at the Rose Bowl, laying points. Josh Rosen, their quarterback, missed that game again. Joe Williams, I don't know if you've been following this story. Of course, if you're not in Salt Lake City or if you're not in Pac-12 territory, you probably haven't. But the Utes offense the past 2 weeks has been powered by a running back by the name of Joe Williams, who came out of retirement. The guy quit the team early in the season, but then a number of injuries cost Utah basically every running back on their roster. So Williams came out of retirement, and in the 2 games since, he's run for 511 yards, 29 carries, 332 yards, and 4 touchdowns against the Bruins. Now, the Utah defense couldn't stop a backup quarterback who was making his second start ever for UCLA, a fifth-year senior, okay? So Utah defense has a lot of questions to be answered. And the UCLA offense has no ground game. They entered that game ranked 126th out of 128 Division I teams. And now, what does Utah have waiting on its plate? Oh, a visit to Salt Lake from the Pac-12 leader, Washington. So I think the Huskies are definitely going to give the Utes defensively all they can handle. Virginia lost 35-14 at home to North Carolina. Tar Heels outgained them 488 to 253. UNC ran for 178 yards, averaged almost 5 yards a carry. Now the Cavaliers get to host Louisville. Yes, the same Louisville team I gave you as a free pick yesterday, and they destroyed NC State 54-13 with Lamar Jackson passing for 355 yards and 3 touchdowns, running for 76 yards and another score. Yeah, he had a bad game, but I guess he'll have to just struggle on. Hey, how about Navy? I gave you Navy as a free pick yesterday. I didn't understand how Navy was a 1-point underdog to Memphis. I don't understand how anybody can be an underdog to Memphis when the Tigers are on the road, because Memphis plays no defense, and Navy exposed them again yesterday once more as a fraud. The midshipmen, 532 total yards, 40 minutes, time of possession, season high 447 rushing yards. Now the midshipmen travel to South Florida to take on the Bulls on Friday night. Now think about this. South Florida was just a 6.5-point favorite last Friday in Philadelphia against my Temple Owls, my alma mater, right? How did Temple beat them and handily beat them? Because they played ball control offense. They ran the ball. 528 total yards, 319 on the ground. Time of possession, 39 minutes. What did I just tell you about what Navy did to Memphis? Navy's going to do the same thing to South Florida as well. Bottom line. End the story. Hey, Nebraska, 27-14. They get the win at home against Purdue, playing with an interim coach in revenge. But they trailed 14-10 at halftime. Didn't even come close to sniffing the cover as a 24-point favorite. But no problem, Cornhuskers fans. Hey, you're 7-0. Oh, by the way, next 2 weeks, you're on the Big Ten Highway. Yeah, you might have a little problem there. You're going to Camp Randall, and then you're going to go visit Ohio State. It's bad news. You're coming back 7-2. SMU, congratulations to Chad Morris. Listen, 2-10 last year. You're brought in. You're the former Clemson offensive coordinator. You make some inroads. You're starting to turn it around for SMU. First game this season, your quarterback, Matt Davis, a dual threat guy, suffers a season-ending knee injury. Okay, you put in Ben Hicks, a redshirt freshman. Good thrower, not much of a runner, and you struggle. But then you come up yesterday with a dominating effort. You not only beat Houston, you beat the hell out of Houston. And suddenly you got your third one of the season, and you're not even close. You weren't on the hot seat anyway, but you're not even close to thinking about being on the hot seat because everybody's loving you in Dallas right now. And that's all they're going to be talking about because you were talking about earlier in the season needing a breakthrough win, and you thought you could get it when you took on Temple. You scored the first points in that game, and then Temple reeled off 35 in a row and shellacked you in Philly. Well, you got that win yesterday against Houston. And now suddenly the Cougars off to a 5-0 start. They've lost 2 of their last 3. Tom Herman, that hot, sexy coaching candidate for every head coaching availability out there, is he still? Probably. But the Cougars certainly aren't playing for the championship anytime soon. Now, maybe not even one of the top 6 spots come the postseason. How about West Virginia? I don't know. Personally, I still don't know if the Mountaineers are that good or they're benefiting from a pretty damn easy schedule. But they're 6-0, and 6-0 is 6-0, and they're 3-0 in the Big 12. Defense has held Texas Tech and TCU to season low in points the past 2 weeks. That's got to be good for something, right? Anyway, they're going to take on Oklahoma State in their next game. Oklahoma State got 17 points on KU, Kansas turnovers in yesterday's 44-20 win against 1-6 Kansas. And that's all I can tell you about that damn game. Marshall loses 27-24 at home to NC Charlotte. Boy, have the Thundering Herd dropped big time, huh? They got shut out in the second half of that game. They're 2-5 on the season. They missed a 40-yard field goal attempt to tie the game with 1:13 to play. Charlotte closes the game on a 17-3 run. It's pretty bad when you lose to NC Charlotte at home. End the story. A game I looked at with interest yesterday was North Texas, the Mean Green going to Army. Army started the season with an upset as a 14-point underdog at Temple. They got off to a 3-0 start. Then they lost again. Then they beat Lafayette last week, and I thought, hey, now they're laying big points at home against North Texas. I thought maybe they could win that game. I wasn't even close. North Texas wins at 35-18. Mean Green now 4-3. Rebuilding team, new head coach, going to a spread attack, 2-1 on the road. Jeffrey Wilson, their running back, that you probably never heard of until I mentioned his name. 160 yards rushing yesterday against the number 2 run defense in the country. 188 the week prior against Marshall. And now the Black Knights are now 4-3. Why did they lose that game? They had the ball 37 minutes. They ran for 302 yards, 7 turnovers. South Carolina. Hey, you hire Will Muschamp. This is what you get. 34-28 at home yesterday. They beat UMass. The Minutemen are 1-7. Gamecocks yesterday started a true freshman, 18-year-old quarterback, Jake Bentley. He responded, 201 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. That's the most points South Carolina has scored this season. They entered that game in Division I rankings, dead last in points per game. South Carolina hosts Tennessee next week, by the way. Volunteers coming off the bye. Gamecocks have won just 2 SEC games the past 2 seasons combined. Connecticut loses 24-16 at home to Central Florida. The Huskies held scoreless in the second half at home, blow a 13-0 lead. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing, but I thought it was kind of a cool, interesting tidbit, so I pass it along. Toledo, 6-1 in the MAC. Woohoo! 31-17 win over the Chippewas of Central Michigan. Quick, can you spell Chippewas? I didn't think so. That was only a 3-0 game for the Rockets leading at halftime. Hey, break up the Wildcats of Northwestern. 24-14 home win over Indiana. Wildcats have won 3 in a row. Hoosiers have lost 3 in a row. Hoosiers offense supposed to be high-powered, fancy-dancy, scoring all these points. They got 5 touchdowns, 51 points during the 3-game losing streak. The Wildcats, meanwhile, their offense has been powered by Justin Jackson. It sounds like a running back or an action figure. I'm not exactly sure. 465 yards rushing, 88 carries during their 3-game winning streak. Oh, by the way, Northwestern, you're going to Ohio State next week. Buckeyes coming off the loss at Penn State. I think that winning streak's coming to an end in Columbus. Kansas State manages to beat Texas 24-21 at home. Time in possession for the Wildcats in the game, 38 minutes. They only had 405 total yards, but 240 on the ground, and you kept the Texas offense off the field. So there you go. Longhorns, 3 for 11 on third downs, 0 for 2 on fourth downs, 10 penalties, 72 yards. Texas offense, season low, 344 yards. Texas hosts Baylor next. Kansas State visits Iowa State. Who the hell cares? Hey, how about Syracuse? 38-20. Orange. They beat Virginia Tech. Then they beat Boston College. Not bad. 6 outright upsets in the last 7 meetings between these two teams. Middle Tennessee State. We're going to talk about the Blue Raiders because they have one of the best nicknames in all college football. So Missouri yesterday was hosting had its homecoming, 105th homecoming in Missouri school history. You know, you're supposed to have a team that you're supposed to beat on homecoming. So they had Middle Tennessee State. Problem is, Middle Tennessee State won that game 51-45. Blue Raiders had 584 total yards in that game. They had 300 yards on the ground. Now, Missouri had 629 yards. They ran a season-high 104 plays. How did they lose the game? How about 13 penalties for 125 negative yards? How about 2 turnovers that led to 10 points for Middle Tennessee State? Missouri next hosts Kentucky. Kentucky beat them in Lexington last year. May not win that game either. Maryland, DJ Durkin's team, 5-2 in his first year at the helm, snaps a 2-game losing streak by handing Michigan State its 5th straight loss. 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter to rally for the 28-17 win. Props going out to them. They visit Indiana, seeking revenge for losing to the Hoosiers a year ago. Kentucky, meanwhile, They blow a 10-point lead with 15 minutes to play. They only need 2 wins to be bowl eligible, though, for the first time in, 6 years, because they managed to escape with a 40-38 home win over Mississippi State on a 51-yard field goal as time expires. Never should have come down to that. They had 554 total yards in that game. Miss State only had 362. So Kentucky's won 4 of its last 5. Washington State, 4-0 in Pac-12 play. After a 37-32 win at Arizona State. There was a lot of bad blood in this one if you're not familiar with it. Mike Leach, Washington State coach, the Pirate, accusing Arizona State of stealing signals. Well, that kind of pissed Todd Graham, the Arizona State head coach, off. They had some words after the game. Of course, the Pac-12 had fined Leach as well, $10,000 for his comments as well. Hey, Arizona State gave them a battle, but Arizona State is just an injury-riddled team. By the end of the game, they were down playing a 4th-string quarterback because Wilkins, their starter, got injured again. Luke Falk, another good game for the Cougars, 42 for 53, 398 yards, 3 touchdowns in that game. Arizona State had won 6 in a row straight up before that loss last night. So that concludes your tour around the college football results for week number 8. And this concludes your college football week in review. Good luck, everybody, and I'll catch you again next week for not only your college football week in review, but your NFL action as well. Good luck, everybody.